Here we are
Uh,
on Hump of the Week Wednesday morning. It's 31 minutes past 7 a.m., the 23rd day of July, 2025. You're tuned in to Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. It's that time to take a look at the headlines in the papers, analysis, and contributions from you. Your thoughts and opinions will be much welcome. This is Freshly Pressed. Welcome along to another installment. Great to have you join us on the show as you always do. And you can always interact with us on WhatsApp and on YouTube as well. So get those messages, get those thoughts coming in to us. The WhatsApp number is 0809 444 0981. 0809 444 0981. Once again, my name is Ayokunmi Kekiriako. And of course, joining me for analysis on a Wednesday, two fine gentlemen as always, Lakunle Yusuf and of course, Devoe Okorie. Good morning to you, Lakunle. Great to have you in once again.
Good morning, Ayokunmi. Good morning, Devoe. Good morning, everyone, all our listeners from wherever in the world you're listening to us this morning. Hump of the week, as they say. I hope that we've had a great week to date. Mine has been very, very busy. Let's look at what we've got today. I hope some
Mm.
of them will be pleasing as it were.
Hopefully, Devoe, good morning to you.
Morning, AY. Can you hear me? Morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Morning, world. Lagos, Lakunle.
We
New
can hear you,
day and a
Devoe.
new week. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. I said morning, world. Morning, Lagos,
It
Lakunle.
looks like the network
New.
is okay. Go ahead, Devoe. We can hear you clearly.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So morning, world. Morning, Lakunle. New day and a new week. A cool GDP, too bad.
I know we talked about the GDP. GDP yesterday moving up about 3.13%. Baby steps, as they say. We'll get there eventually. When? I don't know, but eventually we will get there. Anyways, Devoe, let us begin our discussion this morning talking about something that came up very recently, talking about the passing of President Muhammadu Buhari surrounding the ban on public servants from patronizing certain establishments. Anyways, this is from the Vanguard. The House of Representatives on Tuesday passed for first reading a bill seeking to prohibit public and civil servants, including their immediate families, from patronizing private schools and healthcare facilities in Nigeria. Now, the bill was sponsored by Honorable Amobi Godwin Oga, the lawmaker representing Isukwato federal constituency in Abia State. Now, speaking at a press briefing after the bill was read for the first time on the floor of the House, Oga described the Private Institutions and Healthcare Service Providers Prohibition Bill 2025 as a turning point in the history of our nation, stating that it aims to restore confidence in public institutions and also eliminate conflict of interest in service delivery by public officials. Is this something that you agree with wholeheartedly, Devoe, that this is definitely the way to go?
Um, I wish we had all the time on this topic because it's a very interesting one. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. You see, the point is, the Honorable Oga, this bill obviously is in reaction to some of the figures that we've been hearing recently, especially from the CBN that released the amount of FX that was spent in 8 years by Nigerians to the tune of uh, $30 billion. So it was about 29.9. $30 billion. That's literally about if not 45 trillion, almost the size of our budget as a nation. We spent on moving Nigerian capital into foreign coffers to get treated.
Mm.
And if it was everybody that was getting this treatment, we would say fine and good. But it's just a few people who could afford or who had this capacity to do this. And this is simply because of the failure of the medical care system all around at the primary level, at the secondary, at the tertiary level in Nigeria, to the extent that the former essay on media to the president, additional, said that if Buhari was left in the country and if he wasn't treated abroad like he was doing, he would have died. Those are not political statements. Those are not even content. Those are judgment calls on the position and the state of affairs of healthcare in Nigeria. Now, I understand why the Honorable is trying to say, okay, the only reason that our healthcare system is running down, and also education, because he included social services, which I totally agree with and I commend, both education and healthcare. He said that there should be a bill that bans public servants from using private institutions, that's private healthcare and private schools. Okay, not just the public servants themselves, but their families. Now, you see, I understand that he's trying one way or the other to say that maybe if you people use these public institutions, you go to our own hospitals, you go to our own schools, maybe you might focus and pay attention to them. It's also a form of what they call conflict of interest. However, what we're doing is that we're trying to fix a larger problem using the wrong tools, okay? And I must bring this out because at the end of the day, even if you ban public servants from using private schools or even private hospitals, most of them will find their way going abroad. That's literally what it will do. They will simply just say, okay, we're not allowed to use hospitals in this country. Oh yeah, begin to find your way to Ghana, begin to find your way to India, begin to find your way to America and the UK. Now, we need to actually hit the nail on the head. We need to hit the nail on the head. And at this point, let me borrow from a town hall, is different. President Tinubu, yes, after almost 30 to 40 years of wasting billions of naira on refineries that were supposed to give Nigeria local capacity of products, took away the subsidy, okay? Took away the subsidy that was the leakage points, that was the cesspit of corruption. Now, I need him to take the same strong approach, okay, into social services like healthcare and education. If healthcare and education is important to the Nigerian, then that should be at the top 1, 2, 3 issues that this administration should be addressing. Meaning, if King Mama Chali and the King of Saudi Arabia used to come to Nigerian hospitals back in the day, what happened? Where did we lose capacity? Where did we lose the value? Where did we lose the working conditions that would make our own hospitals and schools attractive for our own citizens to stay in and use and utilize? This is a whole question. And the point is, it doesn't mean that government has to do everything, but government needs to partner. So, for example, as you can see, government obviously could not fix the refineries, but it took a private sector player like Dangote to invest 20 billion to be able to bring about one of the best refineries in the world. AY, do you see how that works? Do you see that in one position, it looked like an impossibility? They kept on spending turnaround maintenance, eating our dollars. Lizards, gorillas, and orangutans and skunks were eating the money. But in one other hand, where the private sector played the role, in less than 2-3 years, the refinery was built. It's not just only built, it's one of the biggest in the world. Not only biggest, it's functioning and producing the highest quality, highest grade refined products. Likewise, if the government steps in with the private sector, either in education or healthcare, we may be able to restore lost glory. We may be able to get ourselves back. So my last point is I want the House of Rep member to push this further, to look at a way to review this and not just use this approach that would only maybe pluck a leaf off a tree of an issue. There's, like I said, we need more time on this topic because this is the issue that affects you and me on a daily basis. If there's anything that we need to go to war about in this country, it is about these two issues, health and education.
All right. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on this matter, Devoe. You also share your thoughts with us on WhatsApp. Where do you stand concerning this bill? Are you for, against, or undecided? The WhatsApp number is 0809 444 0981. All right, luckily, let us hop into the punch right now and talk about another major issue plaguing Nigerians, and that has to do with malnutrition. Now, the United Nations Children's Fund, that's UNICEF, on Tuesday said about 3.5 million children in Nigeria are suffering from severe acute malnutrition and putting severe and acute in the same sentence. No. Anyway, UNICEF Nigeria's Chief of Field Operations and Emergencies, Judith Leville, stated this during a joint press briefing held in Abuja, focused on the European Union's support for victims of the water crisis in Benue State and the nutrition emergency in the Northeast and the Northwest as well. Now, according to her, the situation is so dire and requires urgent attention, noting that 400,000 children risk preventable deaths in 1 month and 8 days. Those are very, very scary numbers in such a short space of time.
Goodness me. When I first saw these reports, I didn't know whether to be angry or to cry. And I'll tell you why, which I didn't know which one to do. One, I didn't know whether to cry because the numbers are staggering. We keep asking ourselves at this table, what is the value of the Nigerian life within Nigeria? We don't seem to appreciate these things. Just look at all of these things as numbers. So you tune on your TV or radio, you hear 4 people died, 10 people died because of preventable things. And we just say the numbers like they're just numbers, that they are not humans. Now here, the chief of UNICEF's field operations in Nigeria says that, let's give context to that number that she's giving. She gives a context is that the number that we are talking about here is that you are filling the National Stadium Abuja 60 times over. What is the capacity of that stadium? I think it's 120,000. Yeah. So imagine that we are 120,000 in 60 places. That's the number. There are some countries in the world that their total number is just about 3.5 million we are talking about. Here we are in Nigeria, we are talking about 3.5 million children that are suffering from severe acute malnutrition. Now, the question again is, with all the monies that we hear that our state governments are earning from far from everywhere, the IGRs that they boast with, what are they doing with it? That's the part, that's my anger. What have they done with it? How many schools have they created? How many hospitals have we upgraded to be able to serve these children? How have we provided security? And that's to the federal government in this instance. The places we have mentioned. Anyway, Nigeria is now a country where we are proudly displaying some of ourselves as internally displaced persons in our own country. And we've taken it to become normal. Even the people in those places don't even want to go home because there's no home to go to. So they battle malnutrition, diseases, sicknesses, and all other forms of abuses, including sexual abuses and all that for the female children that are there with them. So you ask yourself, what is the pride of being a governor in the state when half of your citizens are threatened by things like this that are preventable? We ask the government, provide security. We're not even asking you to give them food. Provide security so that people can go to farm or they can go to work and make a living to feed themselves as appropriate. But no, every day we hear bandits, kidnapping, herders, farmers clashes. We are very good at giving all these things names. And here we are. Our children are the casualties of all of those things. Because, of course, a parent that cannot go to work, that cannot go to farm, that does not have a legitimate means of livelihood, how can he feed his children? And United Nations, Doctors Without Borders, and all of this, they are all over the place. What is the pride in our government allowing non-governmental organizations to turn Nigeria into some form of a pilgrimage place where all of them congregate and dole out freebies? What is the pride in that for? And again, every day, We hear of the internal and external loans all our levels of government take. What do they use these monies for? These are the
Lakunle,
questions. Yes,
Luckily,
please.
sorry to actually interrupt you on this one. I mean, these issues are really, really serious. And just to have a better understanding of the gravity of the situation that we're in, of course, we talk about the children being the next generation, the new scientists, the engineers, and so on and so forth. If we have 3.5 million who are in this situation, I mean, how big, how huge of an issue is it for the country in context?
We have tried to put a context with the lady here has helped us by saying 60 MKO Abiola stadiums, you build them. You now fill them with human beings, children. That's the number. I'm trying to think up of a country that does not even have up to 3.5 million people. Adults, children, men, women. Do you get? So we have 3.5 million children that we think that we can expend with and heaven will not fall. I don't I can't I can't think of it in any other way but to express anger and sorrow at the same time,
Right.
talking about this thing. So you have a governor. So what is his joy in being governor? That 10,000 children are going to die in a state within 40, how many days did they say? Within 30 days and within 38 days. What joy is it that to be a local government chairman? What joy is there to be president of a country when you see this kind of reports? I mean, and then we spend so much time majoring in minors and minoring in majors. This is disaster. This is crisis.
Yes,
At
indeed.
every level, nobody in government should see this and be comfortable
Right,
that
Lakunle.
this is what the situation is.
Man, we can go on and on about this particular issue, and we'd not leave this studio. It's so unfortunate that we're in this sort of situation. Let me sneak a message or two in before I come back to you, Devoe. This is Ajayi Olonilua. He says the bill to prohibit public officials and their immediate families from patronizing private schools and health facilities in the country is a step in the right direction. However, the ban must be extended to overseas schools and hospitals as well. We need to stop this shameless attitude of our presidents dying in foreign countries when the facilities could be established within our own country. All right, let me take one more here. Ade in Lagos says, in a sane country, removal of subsidy, borrowing money, or taxing the people is used for development. But here, the government borrows to loot, to live their luxury lifestyles. They turn the economy to a disaster. They turn people to beggars in the midst of plenty. And why does it feel like I've read this message 1,001 times, Adi? Well, your point is very much noted. Thank you so very much. Devo, let us step back into the papers here. The Guardian is what we're going to. Let's talk about um, let's talk about census numbers and so on and so forth. Now, the chairman of the Senate Committee on National Identity and Population, Senator Victor Ome, has urged the federal government to accelerate plans to ensure the conduct of a credible population and housing census in the country despite the cost. Speaking at the event organized by the National Population Commission to commemorate the 2025 World Population Day on Tuesday in Abuja, Ume stated that the last census in the country was in 2006, emphasizing that it has become very imperative for the government to conduct another census to enable it to plan effectively for development. Of course, ideally, a census will come up every 10 years or thereabouts. And we spoke yesterday about Nigeria aiming for a $1 trillion economy by 2030. How key is it for us to have all this data in order for us to get to where it is that we're going to or where we want to get to? Debo, you're muted. Can you hear me, Debo? If you can, kindly unmute so we can hear your thoughts on this matter.
Can you hear
All
me
right.
now?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay,
Go
this
ahead.
is another topic that, this is another topic that we can go to war on. That is one. It's another topic that will cause a war. And I mind my words when I'm saying this because data is the 21st century crude oil. Okay, how much information you know And how much you apply that information is what differentiates backward countries from advanced countries, okay? Which is why you see foreign countries scrambling for AI, because AI is the outcome of plenty data being processed. Now, as regards population, population is simply the count of human beings in a certain location, meaning a country. Now, whilst they take the population count, they also take other metrics to play. They take your of demographics. They take people's what do you call it, age levels. They take their, sometimes if they like, they can put in what you eat, what is available, data in terms of how people live, how many people in their house, how many people in an area. That's called population density. All this information is necessary to enable government at all levels, at the federal level, at the state level, and at the local government level, plan. Most times we actually plan with what the senator called assumptions. We can't continue going on decade after decade with assumptions because to a large extent our assumptions are wrong. Back in 20 about almost 20 years ago, when they did the last census in 2006, I think we're about 160 million. Now they tell us that we hear figures bandied around that we're 180 million. Some people say we're 200 million.
200
Some
plus.
have even started saying that we're 235 million. Which one is it? That is one. Secondly, it's these figures that would actually define whether your GDP is right or wrong. And you know, even with the new GDP, some people contest it because at the end of the day, we're not sure at the integrity or the accuracy of how they pick that data, if it's going by the MBS. Is it the same MBS that shifted the base year to be able to reduce inflation when we know the real inflation to people is much higher? Is it the same MBS that shifted that changed the unemployment model that took 1 hour of work to being employed? Now, the point here is this. It's also this population data that has defined the sharing formula for even federal to state governments. And this is where, like I said, Nigeria went to war. If you check the history of Nigeria since the 1960s, it became a problem with the various first and second republics, whereby between the north and south, different population figures were manipulated to give advantage to some certain sections, okay? Which was why even Tinubu, when he was a governor 30 years ago, he contested it and even brought a private organization to put a census alongside the federal census, which brought different figures. But obviously his figures were dismissed. And some people would say, oh, if they say Kano and Lagos have the same population, how come the food bill in Lagos is higher? How come in terms of consumption, etc.? It's not possible. All these things have been disputed across the years. Even the issue of, not the geopolitical zoning in terms of Igbo people having 5 states while other zones have 7 or 9. All those things, yet even the 5 states that they have a higher population than some of the states that have not. These are the issues that need to be addressed. Now, the truth is this, I've told you, AY, I'm not sure that Nigerians, as we are, in the current state that we are willing to have the courage to face the mirror and tell the truth about our population. I don't think it. And that's why I said we will go to war because of population. The only reason why they've not done a population, because each time the issue of national population comes up, some politicization or some political interest says, no, don't bring the truth out. Let me say this. Under Section 25 of the Constitution, where it speaks of the Child Rights Act, remember the contention over adult consent? Some people wanted to shift it down from 18 to about, I think it was 14 that they were pushing, so that they could have access to children sexually. But the point is this. The girl child makes up almost 55% of this country. That's why I always tell people that there are more girls than women in the nation. 2.
All right,
Secondly,
bring it home.
The youth population is about 75% of the population. You have 75% of 200 million people below the age of 35. Now, In terms of resource allocation, how much is going to the youth of this nation? How come the youth of this nation don't really have a voice? How come women and youth, who make up the majority of the constituency of this country, not play a leading role in how governance takes place? Like I said, this is a topic we will go to war on because there are many people who are enjoying status quo, especially at the state and federal level, who do not
Right.
want the truth about our population to come out. And I'm looking forward to see who will have the courage and the boldness to be able to say, let's count ourselves and find out who truly is a Nigerian.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Devoe. All right, Lakunle, let us quickly step into the punch. Our coming to Lagos for this one. Well, where the story says that no fewer than 62 people have lost their lives to fire incidents and building collapses across Lagos State in the first half of 2025. That's according to Punch Metro. Now, this was revealed in the media activity report of the Lagos State Fire and Rescue Service released on Monday. This period covered incidents that happened between January and June of this year. So, luckily, I mean, some would say, oh, 62 people, that's not too many people, but I mean, just one person is bad enough. And we really need to resensitize ourselves that one human life, just one human life being lost is something that should be taken with the utmost seriousness. Luckily.
Okay, so I think that for me, Lagos State is just trying to do some form of public service announcement and awareness with this story, saying that half of the year there had been building collapses and fire incidences, and 62 lives had been lost. We cannot begin to quantify other the value in terms of naira and kobo of other property that may have been lost, but 62 in 6 months, it's a lot, in my opinion, because as a people of faith, one loss of life could cause a whole nation to cry. One loss of life could cause a whole community to cry, not to talk of 62. And it just goes there to underscore the reasons that we need to be careful with a lot of things that we do in terms of the kind of houses we build, the kind of how we occupy, the kind of uses we put those houses to, the kind of equipment we use, the quality of materials. And then some of those things also stem from government policies itself. For example, while Lagos State government is putting and training people, recruiting people to become fire servicemen, emergency responders, buying ambulances, buying fire trucks, and all that. But guess what? There is somebody importing into Nigeria low quality electric cables that I will buy to do wiring in my house, and then boom. Or there is somebody who's renting an apartment and says that there are only 3 of them, but at the end of the day, there are 10 of them living in the house, overloading the house, then boom. So you see, the chain is long enough. And then there is the need for families to also understand that they can have one building on a plot of land rather than have 3 buildings on a plot of land, because they've divided the plot of land into 3, and each part of the family is erecting their own building. And then the buildings are practically leaning on each other. While one had built his own 10 years ago, the other was just building it up today. The construction of today causes to affect the integrity of the one that's been built earlier, and so on and so forth. So when you put all of those things together, what this report tells me is that the government is using style and everything possible to tell us how well they are responding to the problems we have knowingly or unknowingly created. Look at the quality of materials that we used to build our houses. Go to where they make blocks that they used to build houses. Just push your finger at it like it collapses. So imagine that then you now use that kind of block to build a house, and then you load it. Go and look at the quality of electric cables that we use, and so many things that are wrong with us. And it is not just enough to buy fire trucks or train people to be firemen or that. These basic things too we must deal with to ensure that these kind of bad things don't happen. And then finally, please and please and please, people of Lagos, don't call those emergency numbers saying that you are just testing if it works. If you don't have an emergency, don't. Look at here, they said they've got 315 false emergency alerts within 6 months. Please don't call it if you don't have an emergency. Thank you.
Very important. Thank you so much for that, Lakunle. Let's not cry wolf. Only call the numbers if there is an actual emergency to report, please and please. All right, let me take your messages here. This one says, morning, Ayo, 3.5 million children. We haven't heard, excuse me, we haven't heard of their parents, so it's 3.5 million identified. What of those not yet identified? Are these numbers inclusive of IDP camps? $1 trillion economy loading. Every other day we are serenaded with the economy is growing, inflation is dropping, renewed hope is yielding dividends. I beg, give Mr. C his flowers, Joe. God bless him. He speaks the truth every single day. All right, thanks for your message. Fiban Inekwe says, education and healthcare are fundamental pillars of a thriving society. The House of Reps action is a way forward, but they should walk the talk by utilizing the services here, encouraging the executive to revamp infrastructure and improve the training and welfare of the staff. All right, thank you, Fabian. Jerry says, children dying in these heartbreaking numbers due to malnutrition is in a country that is not at war. Please, do our so-called leaders have children they see every day, waiting for the God that loves judgment to speak now?
Ayo,
Right.
Ayo,
Yeah,
a country that has potential 3.5 million humans at the risk of dying is at war. War is not just about guns and bombs. This is war against, what's it called? Malnutrition.
Right.
It is war.
Sharon Odessa earlier says, severe acute malnutrition, Major League Kwashiorkor, and marasmus can be resolved with simple measurements. Community education, government intervention, simple pap and boiled eggs will go a long way. It's just a sad reflection of how the country values its people. Sharon is speaking from a medical point of view. He's a medical practitioner, so I guess he knows what he's talking about in that regard. This one says, but hold on, what has happened to Buhari's school feeding program? I think it was suspended at some point, if I remember correctly. Has the food finished or it never happened? It's so bad that when you come out to feed 100 people and 500 people come out, I think they're being modest. 500 is being very modest, to be honest. Zikolo sent in a list of 9 countries that with a population less than 3.5 million. It's 9 different countries there. Zeman from Bristol says, Nigeria has been ruled by the horsemen of the apocalypse. They are weapons fashioned against us. Joseph Meniz says, the real question is that government from the presidency down to local government chairman, who is accountable? The government keeps taking questionable loans, subsidy savings, surplus allocations to all states, plus extra security votes, yet citizens are in penury pains. Hopeless states in the midst of plenty, I guess you mean. Which way, Nigeria? And Barrister Danukuda says, the missing link in our governance system is that our leaders lack empathy. They only care for themselves and members of their families. Every Nigerian must brace up for change in the kind of leaders that we elect. Alrighty, thank you all so very much for the messages. Absolutely wonderful hearing from you each and every single day. And a big, big, big thank you to you, Lakunle, and to you, Devoe, for taking the time out to join me this morning. Lakunle.
Thank you very much, Ayo, for having me. I hope that the conversations we have here gets to the listening of the people in charge of running this our dear country, and they take counsel from some of them, however foolish our thoughts and opinions might have been. And I hope that the people who are close to them, who also hear it, can help us to convince them 3.5 million children are too much to be ignored and allowed to die of starvation.
All righty. Thank you so very much, Lakunle. Devoe.
All right. Have a great week.
All right. Have a great week. Well, great rest of the week, as it were. And we'll talk definitely on the other side. All right, Lagos, it's been a real thank you so very much once again for joining in and keeping it tuned and sharing all your thoughts. Let's keep that energy up as we work our way to 8:15 and the locker room where it's all about great sporting action.